From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday called for unity, passion, and a renewed commitment to peace as the country marks the holy month of Ramadan. Speaking before Muslim leaders and community members at the Grand Iftar 2026, the President underscored the importance of solidarity and mutual respect among Filipinos of all faiths. President Marcos said Ramadan is a time for families and communities to come together, but noted that this year's observance comes amid global uncertainty and rising tensions in the Middle East. He expressed concern over the growing human cost of the conflict, saying many Filipinos are closely watching developments that affect not only the region but also the lives and livelihoods of families back home. The chief executive stressed that peace anywhere matters to people everywhere and assured that the government continues to strengthen the foundations of peace across the country. President Marcos highlighted the values of Ramadan: discipline, humility, and compassion, saying these virtues help build a stronger and more caring nation. He reaffirmed his administration's full support for peace and development in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM, calling progress in the region one of the country's greatest hopes for lasting peace. The Philippine President acknowledged that the journey toward meaningful self-governance requires patience, dialogue, and reconciliation, but vowed that the government will ensure the promise of peace translates into real opportunities for the Bangsamoro people and all Filipinos. President Marcos said gatherings like the Grand Iftar strengthen understanding among Filipinos regardless of faith or culture. As Ramadan continues, he urged the public to remain committed to service, community, and nation building. The President ended his message by praying that the Almighty accept the fasting and prayers of the faithful and guide the country toward a more peaceful and hopeful future under a new Philippines.
It is an honor to join you here today for Iftar and share a meal with you. Your presence here affirms that our nation remains a place where people of every faith and background are always welcome in fellowship and with mutual respect. And today that spirit of welcome is made even more meaningful because Ramadan is a time for people to come together. It is a time to gather with family, sit beside neighbors, reconnect with a wider community. As we gather here, we are mindful that many parts of the country and the world are facing uncertainty and serious challenges. We see tensions in different parts of the world, particularly now in the Middle East, a region that is deeply significant to many who share the Islamic faith. Many of us, if not all, follow the recent developments closely. These events prompt us to reflect and to respond on their possible effects, not only on the international community, but more importantly on our own people, our economy, and the everyday lives of our families. We are likewise saddened and concerned on the rising human cost to this conflict. We think of the many innocent lives that are clearly being affected, especially our Muslim brothers and sisters who during this sacred month should be experiencing a time of peace and reflection. In many ways, Ramadan teaches us a powerful lesson in nation building. A strong nation, after all, is built by citizens who have the heart and the discipline to put the welfare of others before their own. And this spirit is reflected in our continuing and committed work for lasting peace in Mindanao and throughout our country. Our work is not yet done. We remain steadfast that we will ensure the promise of peace translates into real opportunities for the Bangsamoro people and for all Filipinos. Together, let us continue building a nation where every Filipino, regardless of faith, culture, or background, will live in dignity, security, and confidence in the future.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang has declared Friday, March 20th, a regular holiday nationwide in observance of Eid al-Fitr, the Islamic celebration marking the end of Ramadan. The announcement came as President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. joined Muslim leaders and communities at the Grand Iftar in Malacañang on Thursday. The palace said the holiday recognizes the significance of Eid al-Fitr, which concludes a month of prayer, fasting, reflection, and charity for the Muslim faithful. Malacañang added that the President's participation in the Grand Iftar highlights the administration's respect for the traditions and contributions of Muslim Filipinos to national life. The palace also extended its greetings to Muslim communities in the Philippines and around the world as they prepare to celebrate the important religious occasion with their families. Eid al-Fitr is one of the two major Islamic holidays observed globally after the completion of Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang on Thursday said the national government has enough funds to deal with the economic impact of the Middle East crisis and has no plans for now to borrow from international lenders. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro made the statement after being asked whether the administration is considering new foreign loans to support measures addressing the global oil price surge. Castro said the matter has not been discussed, adding that Finance Secretary Frederick Go confirmed there is no plan at this time to seek additional financing.
Sa ngayon po ay wala pong napabanggit patungkol po dyan. Kinausap po natin at tinanong po natin to mismo kay Secretary Go ng Department of Finance. Ngayon po ay walang balak.
Currently rolling out several interventions to cushion the impact of rising fuel prices. These include fuel subsidies for public utility drivers and a proposal to temporarily reduce excise taxes on petroleum products once global prices breach the $80 per barrel threshold. Starting next week, public utility vehicles or PUV drivers are set to receive 5,000 pesos in fuel assistance sourced from the Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD's Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situation Program. Social Welfare Secretary Rex Gatchalian earlier said President Marcos ordered the agency to earmark 30 billion pesos, nearly half of the IX 2026 budget, as initial response funding. Global oil markets have been volatile in recent weeks amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, including concerns over possible disruptions in key shipping routes such as the Strait of Hormuz. Malacañang assured the public that the government continues to monitor global developments closely while implementing measures to protect consumers and vulnerable sectors from the impact of rising fuel prices.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has certified as urgent a bill that would allow him to temporarily suspend or reduce excise taxes on petroleum products during national or global economic emergencies. The move comes as fuel prices continue to climb amid volatile global oil markets, driven by escalating tensions in the Middle East and fears of disruptions in key supply routes such as the Strait of Hormuz, a passageway for about one-fifth of the world's oil. In a letter to House Speaker Faustino D. III, the President endorsed House Bill or HB number 8418 for immediate passage, saying the measure would enable government to respond quickly to extraordinary fuel price spikes and help stabilize domestic prices during periods of severe economic disruption. The proposed tax adjustment is part of the administration's broader contingency plan to address the impact of the ongoing Middle East crisis. President Marcos earlier assured the public that any excise tax suspension would be temporary. This week, diesel, gasoline, and kerosene prices jumped by around 10 pesos per liter after Iran blocked portions of the Strait of Hormuz, heightening concerns over global supply.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Thursday, Malacañang said Vice President Sara Duterte may have breached public trust if she indeed had early knowledge of a possible Middle East crisis but failed to relay it to the government. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro made the statement after Duterte claimed the administration lacked preparation for tensions in the region, saying the threat of conflict had been known for years. Castro told reporters that if the Vice President had information as early as 2022, she should have immediately informed both the public and the Marcos administration. Castro said withholding such critical information, especially one involving national security, would amount to nonfeasance or failure to perform a duty expected of a government official. She added that Duterte's silence was particularly troubling given that she and President Marcos were running mates during the 2022 elections. Castro urged the Vice President to clarify when and where she supposedly obtained the information, saying that if the details were verified, Duterte should have alerted authorities and the President at once.
Dapat tinanong niyo muna ang Vice Presidente, 2022, anong buwan? Baka naman panong-panong kanyang ama ito. Tandaan po natin, noong 2022, nangangampanya po sila pareho ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. Uniteam sila. May nabanggit po ba siya sa Pangulo patungkol dito? May nabanggit po ba siya sa DND patungkol po dito? Dahil kung alam niya na po ito, malamang ay meron siyang sariling bolang kristal, ay dapat ipinaalam niya kung ito ay verified info nang galing sa kanya, dapat ipinaalam niya ito agad sa bansa. Ipinaalam niya ito agad sa Pangulo at sa otoridad. So, kung siya may alam as early as 2022 at hindi man lang niya ito binanggit diretso sa ating mga kababayan, sino ang hindi nagtrabaho? Sino ang walang ginawa? Tandaan po natin, ipinagmamalaki niya meron siyang impormasyon patungkol dito. Hindi po ba obligasyon niya bilang Vice Presidente na ito ay ipaalam sa ating otoridad? para man lang ang ating mga kababayan, katulad ng sinasabi niya, ay nakapaghanda. Kung hindi niya to sinabi, definitely, this is a breach of public trust. Meron po tayong tinatawag na non-feasance, mga taong gobyernong hindi nagtatrabaho.
That was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang said Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. remains grateful for the burial of his father at the Libingan ng Mga Bayani or LNMB during the Duterte administration, but stressed that gratitude cannot excuse ignoring allegations of extrajudicial killings. The palace issued a statement after Davao City Representative Paulo Duterte accused the administration of choosing political vengeance over gratitude, following the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said President Marcos has acknowledged the former president's role in facilitating the burial of Ferdinand E. Marcos Sr. at the LNB, but she emphasized that appreciation does not mean overlooking serious accusations tied to the drug war. Castro said turning a blind eye to alleged crimes would amount to nonfeasance, noting that public officials have a duty to act on matters involving possible human rights violations. She also pointed out that the burial of Marcos Sr. was carried out in accordance with the law and upheld by the Supreme Court. Responding to Vice President Sara Duterte's claim that Filipinos are angry over her father's arrest, Castro said it is inaccurate to assume that all Filipinos share the same sentiment. She added that the legal process aims to bring justice not only to the victims of alleged EJKs, but also to the former president himself. Castro noted that many complaints were filed by Filipinos who sought recourse before the International Criminal Court or ICC, believing they did not receive justice during Duterte's term. Former President Duterte was turned over to ICC custody on March 12, 2025, following an arrest warrant issued in connection with alleged crimes against humanity linked to his anti-drug campaign.
Ang pagpapalibing po ng labi ni dating Pangulong Ferdinand Ferdinand E. Marcos Sr. ay ito naman po ay naaayon sa batas at nagkaroon din po ng desisyon as Supreme Court dito. At naibalita na rin po natin before na si Pangulong Marcos Jr. ay nagpapasalamat sa ginawa ni dating Pangulong Duterte patungkol po dito. Pero ang pagtanaw ng utang na loob ay hindi naman po kinakailangan na i-tolerate o tulugan ang anumang akusasyon ng kriminalidad at takpan ng mata sa maaaring nadulot ng karumal-dumal na patayan ng EJK. Hindi rin po pwedeng ipikit ng gobyerno at ng Pangulo ang kanyang mata sa mga sinapit po ng mga complainants dito sa ICC. So, muli, nagpapasalamat po si Pangulong Marcos Jr. sa ginawang ito ni dating Pangulong Duterte at ito naman po ay sinang-ayunan ng Supreme Court at wala naman po nalalabag na batas.
That was Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang has announced the appointment of Tourism Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco as Presidential Advisor for Sustainable and Resilient Communities. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the new role will focus on strengthening the rollout of key national programs at the local level, especially as communities face increasing climate-related risks. Castro noted that many areas across the country are experiencing more frequent hazards and disruptions that threaten local economies and livelihoods. She said President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. tapped Frosco to help ensure stronger implementation and sustained follow-through of priority initiatives on the ground. Frosco will transition out of the Department of Tourism or DOT, which she has led since 2022. The DOT will be temporarily headed by Undersecretary Verna Buensuceso as officer in charge. Castro said President Marcos thanked Frosco for her service at the DOT and expressed confidence that her experience working closely with local governments will support the administration's priorities in her new post. The appointment follows reports that seasoned trade diplomat Dita Angara Mathay has been selected as the new tourism chief, amid criticisms Frasco has faced during her tenure, including allegations of excessive self-promotion.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, Israeli President Isaac Herzog personally extended his condolences to Bernie Lavarias, the husband of slain Filipino caregiver Mary Ann De Vera, who was killed in a missile attack in Tel Aviv. Herzog was accompanied by Philippine Ambassador Eileen Mendiola during the visit. In his message, the Israeli leader offered his deepest condolences to Mary Ann's family and the entire nation of the Philippines. Herzog shared that his own family once had a Filipina caregiver, noting that many Israelis consider Filipino caregivers as part of their own families. He thanked the Filipino community in Israel for their compassion and dedication, especially amid the ongoing conflict. He also assured Lavarias that under Israel's compensation program for war victims, he will receive immediate financial assistance and a monthly stipend through the country's national insurance system. Lavarias will accompany his wife's remains on their return to Manila, where their family awaits. The Department of Migrant Workers and the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration have earlier committed full support to De Vera's family, from repatriation assistance to aid for her dependents, as part of the government's continuing efforts to stand with overseas Filipino workers and their families during times of crisis.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak has called on labor attachés and Migrant Workers Office, or MWO personnel worldwide to reaffirm their commitment to serving Filipinos abroad, especially amid the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. In a radio interview, Kakdak confirmed that the MWO Bahrain staff member caught on video behaving disrespectfully toward overseas Filipino workers or OFWs seeking cash assistance has been ordered to return to the Philippines. Kakdak said the employee's conduct was unjustifiable and unfit for public service, adding that he will face a full investigation and likely administrative sanctions. The staff member was seen on video dismissing OFW's concerns, claiming there were no available funds and even challenging them to file complaints. Kakdak stressed that such behavior has no place in government service, especially during a crisis. He said government workers must be a source of calm, humility, and genuine service, noting that the video alone already speaks for itself. Following the incident, Kakdak immediately convened labor attachés and reminded all overseas personnel to stay focused on their mandate and continue serving OFWs with dedication during these difficult times.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.